Hi, I'm Callan Bentley. Welcome to Rock du Jour. Today's rock is this Graywacke. All right, Graywacke is a sandstone. It's got a lot of clay in it. Typically, it's a dark gray in color. And I collected this sample at a spot not too far from where I am now, a place called the South Page Valley Road. There are nice outcrops there of the Martinsburg Formation. The Martinsburg Formation is a late Ordovician turbidite package. So it's a bunch of sand and mud that was eroded off of an ancient mountain range called the Taconian Mountains. And that sand and mud was transported down into a deep marine basin and deposited there by turbidity currents. As the sand and mud was brought down into the basin by these turbidity currents, they slowed down and the big particles of sand settled out first, followed by the finer particles of mud. And this produces characteristic sedimentary structures called graded beds that allow us to deduce these ancient turbidites' former existence on the basis of the rocks that we find and on the basis of these primary sedimentary structures. So when I was down there with my colleague Russ Coors, we were poking around, we found some cool stuff. And I thought, I could use another Graywacke sample for the lab. And so I grabbed it and I brought it back home. And I basically dumped it in my driveway, and it's been there ever since. And recently, I think maybe myself or my wife or maybe the UPS delivery guy ran over it with the car and broke it into pieces. And the other day, I picked it up and held it up, and the light hit it just right, and I realized there was a kind of cool structure running through it. This little linear thing that looked like it had tiny little saw teeth on it. So a very, very thin little line with little zigzaggy margins. And sure enough, when I took a closer look, it turned out to be a graptolite, preserved as an impression in this sandstone. So I've never actually seen a graptolite in a sandstone before. I've seen them in shales because the shales, the tiny particles of clay in the shale, are the right resolution, if you will, to preserve the details, the delicate little details of graptolite anatomy. As an example of that, here's a shale with a bunch of graptolite fossils, and this is from that same outcrop, so the South Page Valley outcrop. And you can see these little stripes running across it, and those have little saw teeth along the edge. So this is kind of cool because A, I didn't know there was a fossil in this rock when I collected it. B, it's much coarser than I'm used to seeing that particular fossil in. And fossils like graptolites are often used to figure out how old sedimentary rocks are. And so in the case of the end of the Ordovician, graptolites were actually the tool that was used by a guy named Charles Lapworth on some shales in Scotland to figure out where the end of the Ordovician period of geologic time was and where the beginning of the Silurian was. And it was worked out on the basis of graptolites. I don't know what particular species these graptolites are. They aren't any of the really fancy varieties that look like nets or brooms or brushes or anything like that. They just seem to have a single stipe with the little zigzags on both sides. So anyhow, that's your rock du jour. I'll show you a few close-up pictures of it here so you can see its texture for yourself. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you're doing well.